Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Brickey here, excited to announce that the update series has returned, and I want to explain to you how it's going to be a little bit different. I was doing update once a week covering everything in downtown Disney, DCA, and Disneyland, which is a lot of steps and a lot of projects to update, and it became a little bit too much to do every week. I enjoyed doing these. I had missed walking through the park and the art of discovering what's new at the resort, and most importantly, I missed sharing it with you and helping empower you with the most information possible to figure out when the perfect time to come back to Disneyland is, and when you do come, how to perfectly navigate all of its many paths and thoroughfares. So Update is back, but it's going to be a little bit different. Let me explain how. One week I will do Disneyland, the following week I will do DCA or Downtown Disney, and then the third week I will do the one that I haven't done. So essentially, Downtown Disney and all the hotels, DCA and our beloved Disneyland will all three be individual update videos, and instead of updating every single week and showing you the most minute of changes, the updates will be once a month so that we can see the broader strokes of what's happening here at the Disneyland Resort. I hope that's not too much information. I hope that it makes sense, and I hope you continue this journey with me. And by the way, right now is a great time to be a true friend and to subscribe to the channel. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to keep on touch with all of the breaking news that happens at the Disneyland Resort, I've got a brand new channel called Brickey Talks Disney. It's only Disney news, only talking head videos. It's me doing podcasts and editorial videos and breaking news videos about everything that you need to know that's happening at the Disneyland Resort, full of great information and conversation from this community that I love so much. Now, with all that being said, let's get into our update video. Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Brickey here with the return of Update. It's the January edition of Disneyland Update, where we'll look at everything new that's happening for the month of January 2023 inside of our beloved Disneyland. Let's kick off our return to Update with looking at the new sign that just popped up over in Toontown. Okay, so the good news is it doesn't look as bad in real life as it did in photos yesterday, but the bad news is it still doesn't look good. As a fellow designer, I understand sometimes things look really good in your artboard, and you're like, this is great, this is going to work, because you're looking at it in maybe Adobe Illustrator. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, and it looks fantastic. However, trapping all of the different logos or insignias of the Fab Five inside of the Toontown lettering, it just doesn't look that great in the real world. I think the sign maybe needs to be twice as big for that trapping inside of the letters to work, because as you can see, there's a stroke around each letter so that it bounces and shows the depth and dimension. However, that stroke makes the interior of the letter much smaller, which means that some of these insignias, like Goofy's hat, for example, is very, very tight inside of the sign. I'm not saying it's a bad design, probably t-shirts better than it does on a sign, but I think the sign needs to be at least twice as big for that Toontown logo to work. I do, though, really like how shiny the Welcome to and Mickey's looks, and I love the gradient that they put on the background to really try to give that interior text as much pop as possible. A week from now, we'll be walking through this tunnel to take place of the opening of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. One of the stories that we were first to break on YouTube over on our other channel, Brickey Talks Disney, was the announcement that the French Market is going down and transforming into Tiana's Palace. The French Market will close down on February 17th. There's no word yet on when it's going to reopen, and I think that this is a very interesting and curious move. I would have much preferred to seen this theme happen down at the Hungry Bear, where it would be closer to Splash Mountain and put a little bit of life into a quieter part of the park. New Orleans Square is authentically Disneyland. It's the only park that possesses this land, and I just really wish that New Orleans Square could be preserved and as IP, intellectual property free as possible. Also, this is a walk-up counter service. Theming it around a character is only going to add complications to expectations from guests and over-demand in a place that's already very, very hard to just walk in, grab some food, and get a place to eat. I do believe there are probably better locations for this, and outside of New Orleans Square would have been my first pick. But if you want to learn about stories like this as they break, make sure you subscribe to our sister channel, Brickey Talks Disney, where all I do is break Disney news for you. Another part of this major announcement is that the Mint Julep Bar will be closing on February 17th as well. And once again, no idea on a reopening date for the Mint Julep Bar, which is extremely popular, dare I say maybe even more popular than the restaurant itself. You can see early in the morning there's already a long line of people that are enjoying beignets, which is the perfect way to start a Disneyland day. Shout out to these folks, doing it right. I do have a concern about how many things are getting branded after Tiana. I'm full in favor of the Splash Mountain redo. I was cool with the store, but now also a restaurant. It's like, how much can they give one character when you think about how many other characters aren't represented in the park or represented only once or twice? Tiana going in with the three-peat. Friends, it's been months since we've seen Sleeping Beauty Castle in its normal state, but this is going to last for a very, very short time because when we come back here next month, we will see it transformed over into the 100th celebration of the Disney Corporation. That'll be happening just a week from this Friday. This is the type of thing that Disney typically does right at the end because it's the big reveal, it's the celebration. So I'm imagining that the cast members that are in charge of all the decorations resort-wide will slip in here next Wednesday, next Thursday, and get all of this set up so that when guests come in on Friday morning to celebrate 100 years of the Disney Corporation, the castle really is that centerpiece of the celebration that gets everybody in the celebrating spirit. It is nice, though, to see her back in her normal form because it's going to probably be a year, maybe 18 months before we see Sleeping Beauty in her natural state of beauty. Now, one of the earliest indications of getting the castle ready for the 100th celebration is you can see one of the two fountains is already exposed. The water level has been lowered. Back in the holiday season, we saw that this was submerged in the water, but you can see that the water level has been lowered so that the lights that are on the outer edge of the spoke will be able to shine through the water. And then in the center, we see all the spigots that will create the fountain. There will be one of these on each side of Sleeping Beauty Castle, and the fountain over on the west side, a little bit harder to see than the fountain on the east. I assume they'll probably run either throughout the whole day or periodically, but I would also imagine that with the lighting package, they will interact with the wondrous fireworks show that we'll be getting every evening to celebrate the 100 years. So I always like when these celebrations come in and they leave a little souvenir behind, and it looks like Sleeping Beauty will have fountains for years to come, and that'll be a moment we can all remember when we celebrated 100 years at Disneyland. Friends, I would love to know, what do you all think about the 100-year version of the castle, and have you missed seeing it in its natural form? I didn't think that I had, but now seeing it the way that it's typically supposed to be, it's like seeing an old friend. Friends, one of the first signs of the 100th anniversary coming to Disneyland, if you look inside of the Emporium, many of the windows are blacked out. Some of these are the animated windows that have the different little animated vignettes in them. If you've never taken the time to stop and watch the animations, they're really enjoyable. But then others are just still windows where they always put up a display depicting whatever the season of the year is. You'll notice that these are blacked out, and then I would like to show you one of my other little sort of Disneyland Main Street secrets, which I do think Main Street is one of the most fascinating lands of all of the park. You can see that all of these windows actually open from the outside, meaning all these windows essentially are doors where the Disney cast members can open the window out onto Main Street, create their new display without worrying about moving around merchandise or affecting what's happening inside of the shop, allowing them the ultimate in room and cleaning up these little vignettes and building them at a pace and a luxury that would not be provided to them if the windows opened up inside of the store. So there you go, a neat little Main Street secret. and one of our very first signs that Disney's getting ready for the 100th celebration that kicks off a week from this Friday. So no word yet on the big one. When is Splash Mountain going down is something that every citizen of Disneyland is extremely curious about. But here are some other attractions that we do know when they're going down and when they're coming back up. Sadly, another sign that a holiday has come and gone. It's a Small World's overlay transformation is almost complete. It'll be opening up this Friday, January 19th. I absolutely adore this attraction. I know that it can be debatable amongst a lot of guests, but to me, it's just one of the things that Disney does best, and we'll all be able to take that happy sell again starting this Friday. The beloved Haunted Mansion will be returning to its normal form, opening back up on February 9th, but closing on January 30th. Many argue that the Haunted Mansion stays in the holiday state for way too long, and this year, with Disney getting prepared for the 100th celebration, it's been pushed back further than years past. I think everybody will be excited to see the old gang return in one of Disney's most beloved attractions. Friends, behind me is one of the biggest transformations I have ever seen in Adventureland, and we've seen a lot over the last couple of years. It is completely a dead end. There are now cast members guiding you down to Bingo Barbecue, but that's the stop point. As we jump over to New Orleans Square, you can see absolutely no entry into Adventureland. The land is completely locked and shut down, creating not one, but two dead ends in one of the most popular areas of Disneyland. But don't worry, Pirates of the Caribbean is still open, Bingo Barbecue is still open, and the Jungle Cruise is still open. As we know, Indiana Jones is down for a sizable refurbishment, but this transformation is absolutely huge, and it's for such a great thing. As you know, they need to create a new entryway for the Adventureland Treehouse, but also, more important than that, they need to work on the grade that transforms you from the higher sitting Adventureland down to the Riverside New Orleans Square. It's very hard to push a stroller up, and from what I hear, not an easy trek when you're on a manual operated wheelchair. So Disneyland thinking about all citizens of Disneyland by regrading this area while they're already in there and working on this place. I really hope that the Bermuda Triangle of Disneyland gets fixed, because as you know, there's always somehow a huge crowd that forms right in front of Indiana Jones, right when the land splits off to go up over Pirates of the Caribbean on the flyway or to go down below Riverside. This has always been an area that had too many decisions. Removing Tarzan's treehouse definitely made it easier for most people to figure out which way they were navigating, but it could still use a little bit more help to get a perfect people flow. I'll be very excited to see what all of these new walkways look like when this project resumes. And such an interesting time to do it right now at the kickoff of the 100th celebration. And obviously this project will be very delayed because you can't work on concrete and surfaces when you've also got tremendous amount of rain and moisture. So to be determined when all of this resumes to normal, but I hope creating a much better flow for you and I to walk on this outer edge of the park. Dare I say, the western edge is the best edge of Disneyland. A little unscheduled Disneyland maintenance is what's happening over here at the New Orleans Square train station, where there was a fire that Disneyland is currently repairing. Not too big of a fire, didn't create any major structural damage, just some cosmetic damage that Disneyland is working on repairing. So this one wasn't planned, but you can see Disney reacting and immediately covering up so that it's out of view of all the guests, so nobody has to think about fire when escaping away and having a magical day at the happiest place on earth. A late addition to update after coming home from filming. A little more information about what's happening at the Disneyland Gallery on Main Street that's currently closed but reopening with the 100th celebration, with a new exhibit inspired by Walt Disney's vision for Disneyland to be a place where his films could come to life. Inside you'll see breathtaking artwork created by original Disney animators for some of Walt's early films, as well as artwork concepted by original Disney Imagineers to recreate those stories inside of Disneyland. Not only that, but you'll also have the opportunity to see an animator's desk and a model of a multi-plane camera and so much more. The exhibit is promised to be a magnificent tribute to Disney films that became Disneyland resort attractions, park experiences, and embraces the rich traditions they both share. Don't miss out on this experience when visiting during the 100 celebration. I love spotting these beautification projects where just two guys are repainting a rail that most folks never even noticed was there or ever even stand there. Friends, it is hard to believe that it is now, as of this week, been 3 years since Rise of the Resistance opened up in January of 2020, quickly changing the landscape of Disneyland, added in a once-in-a-lifetime e-ticket attraction that really upped the game for rides to come. It's been 3 years, and if it feels like it hasn't been that long, how could we ever forget that for 440 days of its 3-year anniversary, Disneyland was closed. Disneyland would close about 2 months after rides would open up, leaving so many more guests and citizens of Disneyland that never got to ride it than those that actually did in those first 2 months. 3 years later, still breaking down, still creating Disney magic, still one of the best attractions to see inside of the Disneyland Resort, and one of the most coveted experiences that guests from out of town try to fit in to each and every trip. Happy birthday, Rise of the Resistance. I love you. All right, friends, that's our January edition of everything new that you needed to know that's happening over at Disneyland. Join me this time next week when we look at everything new that's happening over in downtown Disney, and it's a lot. Buildings are moving, businesses are shuffling around. There is an enormous amount of movement in downtown Disney, as well as the hotels, and next week we'll discover it all together. And don't forget, you can find me periodically all throughout the week with breaking Disneyland news, editorial videos, and podcasts over at my other channel, Brickey Talks Disney, where we're always having the continuous conversation of everything that is Disney. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for being you, and I cannot wait till you and I hang out again soon on Main Street, USA.